we had this interesting video of some sort of lizard that looks very giant seen in a, I don't know what you call this. It's kind of like a cave, but I'll just show you the clip in a minute here. Here's sort of a picture of what it looked like. All right. It's pretty crazy looking, actually. And this is a gigantic cave. I'll show you it in a second here. And we're going to get into actually something about dragons or dinosaurs. In this video, you have CNN here talking about a 50-foot one that was discovered, some archaeological find. Looks like sort of like a brontosaurus here. We'll get into that. We're going to get into actually a ton of stuff in this realm. Okay, and some of the history in the China realm, because apparently there's a lot of weird stuff that was discovered there that I'm going to show you in this video. So this went viral. My researcher put this up on X, and it got 2.7 million views, which is pretty good. Here's the video. Let me just play this really quick. I'm going to turn off the music. And actually, is it showing on the screen enough? Not really. Okay, so you can see kind of, it's in a cave. What is that, dude? It's got its eye there. As you can tell, that's not a small cave. I mean, you can walk into that, it looks like. Yeah, you can. Well, I don't know if you can walk into it. No, I don't think you can walk into it. What? You could crawl into it for sure. It looks kind of big, though. That looks pretty gigantic, whatever it is. You got a picture here that he made with AI to kind of get it more quality looking, I guess. Let's see if we can get it better on the screen. It's about as good as it's going to get. It looks kind of like some sort of reptile, gigantic reptile. And what's so weird about it is we have a bunch of stories in this realm. I've talked about some of these before. And it's like, you know, something weird is going on here. Okay. 50-foot dragon dinosaur unearthed by Chinese farmers. Look at the length of the neck. Is that even possible? The way the length of the neck is insane, unless it has his neck, you know, kind of like a giraffe way up high like that, not leaning forward like that. Look how big that is. That is insane looking. That neck doesn't even seem tenable. Like, it doesn't seem like you have the specific, or no, the center of gravity for the animal. If its neck is outstretched this direction like that, the center of gravity is going to be over here. It's going to tip over forward because the center of gravity is not in the center of between the legs, because the neck is so ridiculously long. Unless the neck was standing straight up, even then you would have a very high. So like if you had the neck forward, the center of gravity would be here and it would flip over forward. If you put the neck up straight up in the air like this, the center of gravity is going to be way up here, which means it can easily tip over. Like, it's just like you have a very tall vehicle, it can easily tip over, right? Or just like imagine a building with wheels on it, right? Like a skyscraper. It easily could trip over, flip over, or whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't seem like, it makes you wonder if this is, the way they're presenting it is even legitimate. Because I'm thinking, so what I'm thinking here, I'm going to show you in a little bit, is they'll find these bones of dragons, alleged dragons or dinosaurs in China, where it will have the face, and it will have a very, very long body. Not a neck, a body. And it wouldn't have this part over here. This part doesn't exist. It's almost like they're just adding that on to make it into a sort of like a brontosaurus, when in reality, it just is this long snake-like thing. I'm going to show you it in a second here. Okay. Could they be doing that? I don't know what they're doing here. Paleontologists have discovered 50-foot dragon dinosaur species in China. They have roamed the earth 160 million years ago during the late Jurassic period. Long skeleton was found in 2006 by farmers digging for a fish pond in Guizhou City, southwestern Chongqing province. Now, why is China the one we're talking about? Because the first, in the ancient times, there was a man who went through and mapped China. And he saw tons of dragons when he did it. It was supposed to be a land of dragons, apparently. This is what they were, sort of the legend, I guess you would say. And I'm thinking it's referring to Marco Polo because he went into China. Okay. And I've shown sort of pictures from his own works on this. It was in the 13th century, late 13th century. He wrote about encountering terrifying giant serpents. However, historians and experts generally agree that he was not seeing mythical dragons or dinosaurs, but rather describing large reptiles, like the Chinese alligator. Okay, this is what they're saying here, right? Okay, so you have Marco Polo, you have Alexander the Great talking about this. So this is a alligator here. What is this? It does not look that gigantic. Now, so they're saying that Marco Polo is talking about alligators, not dragons. Okay. Marco Polo's dragons. Unicorns. Apparently he described unicorns as well. This is interesting. We're actually rhinoceroses? Maybe. I don't know. This is kind of weird. So, are they rewriting history, or are they describing it as he just simply didn't know about alligators? He didn't know about rhinoceroses, or well, I can't even say the word for some reason. That's the question, right? We don't know if it's one or the other. It's kind of weird. But we do have lots of historical stories of dragons. And lizards, from what I understand, some of them can just continue to grow forever. And if the right conditions are there, they could become gigantic. So the question is, perhaps there was different conditions in the ancient past to where you had very, very large, perhaps dinosaurs, or just very, very large reptiles. And perhaps we should be looking at what the history books say, more so than those who are telling us about something they don't have any understanding of. They may be able to look at things that are, archaeologically there. Perhaps they know something about paleontology. But you have also historical works that talk about these various giant reptiles that apparently sound a lot like dinosaurs, having a tail like a cedar tree, for example, in the case of Leviathan or Behemoth. In Scripture and Job, you have references in Isaiah, Ezekiel, which I'll show you later. You have also the apocryphal work of Daniel, Bel and the Dragon, where he killed a gigantic dragon, according to the text. You have all these insane amounts of stories of dragons throughout history. And it seems like, I feel like there's almost like a rewriting of history here. Like they're trying to explain away stuff, right? It feels like that a little bit. It really does. You have the Brenton Septuagint LXX here. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord, which thou lettest down? Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Will he take him for a servant forever? He's just obviously he's joking and mocking the person asking this question. Shall the companions make banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him, and remember the battle. Do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? Meaning he's very terrible looking. Terrible lizards, that's what the word means, right? So you have a terrible lizard here, and described as having a cedar tree tail. I don't think an alligator has a cedar tree tail. I know a hippopotamus doesn't. I don't think anything we have around us has a cedar tree tail, to my knowledge. I don't know about you guys, but and what's really weird is China was well known for having a certain type of quote-unquote dragon, which I believe they use the word dragon to just refer to all reptiles. Even maybe alligators and crocodiles were dragons of some sort. although they were smaller. But they had these gigantic reptiles. And here you have this weird video. This is from the History Channel. Unexplained 60-foot dragon bones uncovered. Check this out.
They find a 60-foot-long set of bones belonging to a highly unusual animal.
The remains unearthed in Zhangjiakou had antlers, it had prominent claws, it had a long serpentine body. So this created a huge buzz and a lot of fascination.
A video of the strange bones went viral on the internet, and researchers were baffled as they attempted to identify the bizarre creature.
Yeah, so as you can tell there, it looks really bizarre. I remember seeing this some years ago. This was from 2022. Actually, it was way before then, I think, that it first came out. Because I remember covering it back then. Obviously, the Chinese culture, they reference dragons all throughout it. It's an important symbol to their people and their culture, their cultural lore. And they dragon symbolize knowledge, wisdom, and otherworldly power. So it is kind of weird, right? You got these various stories, like even, for example, Jonah, everyone thinks he was in the belly of a whale, but that's actually not what it says. If you look at the original languages, it says that he was swallowed by a cetus in the ancient languages. So a cetus, we have a constellation Cetus. Okay. Now, Cetus, as a mythical creature, as they claim, is a colossal serpentine sea monster, which would be essentially a sea dragon. So, Jonah was swallowed by a Cetus, which is considered a colossal serpentine sea monster. Now, that clearly is not a whale. A whale is not a serpentine sea monster, right? Why don't they ever tell you this? Have you ever heard? And this is actually the constellation Cetus here. So they claim that this, from what I understand, it has a dog's head, or a head that looks similar to a dog. As you can see here and here, this looks kind of like a dog's head. That this serpentine colossal beast in the ocean that swallowed Jonah had a sort of dog's head to it. Very strange looking creature. It clearly is not a whale. Based on how, I mean, these are all different drawings. I mean, we don't actually have a picture of what one looks like, as you can tell. We just have ancient drawings of them, right? We have ancient drawings of them. We have, and I think there's probably more than one species, assuming, you know, our eyes are not fooling us. If there was a creature like this, according to the text, that's what swallowed him. And they didn't seem to have a problem with what it said in their time, or even 2,000 years ago. It's just only today we got a problem with this. There is no such creature. And if you understand, we didn't even believe in the panda bear. The Americans back over 100 years ago thought the panda bear was a fictional creature like the unicorn. Okay? The panda bear, you know, with the black and white stripes. They thought it was a literal fake creature. And we actually had to go there on 2 different trips to investigate, to even confirm they exist. The first time they couldn't even confirm it when they went to China. So this is something that a lot of people are not aware of. I think is kind of irrelevant because, I mean, if we thought panda bears were mythical, what else do we think is mythical that wasn't?
He was carrying a box of bones, which he said were dragon bones that he had collected when he was 11 years old. Now, this may sound like a senile old man reenacting a childhood prank, but when the deputy director of the office decided to look up references to dragons in the local newspaper, the Shenzhen Times, he found this article from 1934 when the man would have been 11. Accompanying the article, a photo of the skeleton that several more living eyewitnesses, who were now in their senior years, still insisted was a real dragon.
So this is kind of interesting. I saw this video over on YouTube. What channel is this? Learn Chinese. Apparently, he teaches people how to speak Chinese. Let's see here. What has he got here? He's got some pictures. Obviously, they have a very long history with dragons.
Dragons, those legendary creatures that have captivated the attention of Chinese emperors and common folk alike for thousands of years.
So, of course, I mean, as you might imagine, you can't just say that there was nothing. People don't just make up stuff and just believe it without actual real evidence of something. Like you would think that, like, for instance, a lot of mythological stories, there might be some sort of modification to some of these stories where it was originally just a normal human and then they turned it into something else that could possibly happen. But it was based originally on something. It wasn't based on nothing, right? It was actually based on a real original story. So I'm thinking that is the case with this as well, that there clearly was some gigantic reptiles that existed clearly in recent times during humans' lifetimes on this planet. And
your time is valuable.
That's what led to what people were, all these stories. Now, the question is, how big were they? Were they actual dinosaurs? That I cannot answer. Although I kind of feel like they probably were. I don't know though. I can't prove it. You have here wise, lucky, terrifying, the surprising 4,000-year-old history of dragons. Dragon-like animals to Chinese tornadoes and quaint English villages. Here are the real-life traces of the ancient myth. Today marks the Lunar New Year. Heralding, Year of the Dragon. Or does it? Chinese word is usually translated in English, dragon. They're associated with wind rather than fire. For a start, Chinese word for tornado translates the word swirling dragon wind. So, of course, if you look through history, they're known for being wise, having a lot of intelligence. There is a spiritual dynamic to this as well. We see it in scripture. It even says that there's a great red dragon, obviously an evil dragon in Revelation, but there's also a mention in Psalms of God having fire breathing out of his nostrils. God represents himself also as a dragon. You can even see it on Moses' staff, a serpent or a dragon on a staff that you looked at and it healed you, which is kind of the contradiction to Medusa. Medusa was also a serpentine, dragon-like, snake-like creature that if you looked at it, it froze you and made you into a stone. So you have the staff of Moses. You're looking on a dragon and it heals you. You have a different kind of dragon, an evil one. You look at it and it turns you to stone. So there's got to be some weird connection here between all of this when you look into it. Why dragons appear in so many cultures. Ancient people have been explaining prehistoric fossils or unusually large animals in their world, or in some cases crafting archetypal villain. Sort of true. I agree with what you're saying there. They slither through ancient myths. Now, the question is, how do you decipher myth from history when it's the same writers writing both? That's what they don't ever explain to you. Why do they just pick and choose which one's myth and which one's not? How do they know which one's myth and which one's not? When it's actually the same exact writer that they consider a revered historian. Philostratus, Flavius Josephus, Tacitus, Pliny, whoever it might be. They look at them with much esteem, but then just say, well, they're right here, they're just talking about a myth. Or they're talking about something spiritual. I mean, in some cases you could say, yeah, obviously that spot is spiritual and symbolic or something, but in other cases, it seems like they're talking literally about them. Like, these are real things. And they're just like, oh, I'll just ignore that part. Just ignore that part right there. Doesn't fit in too well with what we believe. What exactly is a dragon, and how did so many cultures around the world become to imagine their own version? Often scaly, fearsome creature in myths and art, dragons frequently appear as hybrids, blending features of snakes, wolves, birds, and lions and lizards. This is more so I would say that's more so the case in. That's not. I wouldn't agree with. It's true in some cases with specific types of writings, particularly ones that are more spiritual oriented. You see that more, not so much in the actual writings of like Marco Polo or something. You also have the term dragon showing up in Isaiah, of course, 51:19, and Ezekiel 29:3 uses powerful symbolic metaphor to represent Pharaoh and his arrogant oppressive power. So this shows you how they have a sort of symbolic meaning as well. Was it not you who cut Rahab in pieces, Rahab being a dragon, who pierced the dragon? The dragon here is a metaphor for Egypt, the author poetically recounting how God defeated chaotic oppressive forces, which of course, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It talks about how the Spirit was brooding over the face of the deep, and it talks about how it was sort of chaotic. The earth was out without form and void. And if you look at some of these creation myths that surround in other cultures, they talk about dragons as creating the earth and being a power source for that. Ezekiel 29:3, God pronounces judgment against Egypt. Behold, I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lies in the midst of the streams. It says, my Nile is my own. I made it for myself. Here, the dragon symbolizes the Nile-dwelling crocodile. It's claiming, what? Nile-dwelling crocodile. See, that's just an assumption. We don't know what it's referring to exactly. I mean, it could be referring to something much larger that we're not aware of. I find that curious. It could be. Who knows? Yeah, you have Tannin here. Refers to large marine aquatic monsters, serpents and crocodiles. And actually, I think a lot of this comes back to, like I showed you, the Cetus, which is a serpent giant monster in the ocean. At any rate, that's my video. Kind of wonder what some of you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.